Hey Mojo, this is Mojo, and this is Mojo's Roadmap to Success. So Mojo, the video that we went over above, the techniques I like in that video, but Mojo wasn't as responsive to them as we'd like. And actually was his nipping got a little bit worse. And so what we did is we went ahead and we got a muzzle. And I'm going to show the Guardian, actually Mojo, you stay right there, buddy. I should have had this ahead of time. So what we want to do, and you saw how, he's excited for the leash. All right, Mojo, come back up here. Mojo, come here. All right, so what we want to do is the conditioned emotional response, or the CER that I went over off camera. I'm just going to show you how to do it. So taking these treats, I'm dividing them up into little bits, and what we're going to do is I'm going to show him the stimulus, in this case the muzzle, and then I'm going to move it away and then drop a treat. How about we get you over here, buddy? That's a little bit more convenient for me. All right, well, I guess not. All right, so I have it behind my back. He looks at it, I drop a treat, and it goes away. He looks at it, I drop a treat, and it goes away. Now eventually, after you want to do this, after a while, you should be able to hold it here. There we go, that's what I want. You want him to lean towards it and eventually touch it with his nose, and then you drop the treat. And eventually, what I was doing then to get him to put it on him, make sure I'm doing it the right way, is I was just dropping a treat in here, and you see the dog's putting his nose in there on his own. Now a muzzle is kind of scary looking. Most of us don't like to wear a muzzle. This is a tool, and it's a tool that helps whoever's working with him feel comfortable working with him, knowing that I can't get bit. Now the good thing about dogs that nip to correct, they generally nip at the same intensity. And since he's not even touching me with his teeth, he's trying to get me to back off. But it's a quick movement, and it's sudden, and it spooks us. So I'd like the Guardian to get him used to wearing this muzzle at times when we're not doing this exercise. So do the conditioned emotional response. Try to do that like 2 or 3 times a day until he gets to the point where he's touching it, which should be maybe at the end of today. And then you want to eventually start putting it on him and having him wear it for progressively longer and longer periods of time. At first, just put it on him and give him a treat or two, and then take it off. And then put it on him, so maybe today, put it on maybe 3 more times. And so it goes on and pretty much comes off within a minute or so. After a while, tomorrow, maybe put it on, leave it on for a minute, feed him treats the first couple times, maybe about every 10 or 15 seconds as you're doing it. So we want him to have positive associations and feel good about it. And practice wearing it when nobody's touching it. Now, when we actually, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start coming by with James, one of my assistants, and we're going to basically put him on the muzzle. We found a meat stick. The Guardian had these great treats, and she was letting him chew on it, and I was able to touch him with just one finger like I am now. I'm not going to touch him now because it's going to probably provoke the response, so we don't want to practice that. After a while, I was touching with 2 fingers, then with 3 fingers. And I mean, she was going multiple sticks, and I was leaving him on his side, and he was not reacting. So I think that this is a defense tactic that he had. I think he had something happen to him, an injury, or maybe he was around some kids who dropped him and picked him up, and for whatever reason, he doesn't like being touched. So we need to find a way to break through to him and touch him while good things are happening. And since the Guardian is working her tail off in school and doesn't have a lot of people that she can come by, we're going to come by and just kind of help a couple of times a week and hopefully progressively get him doing this for longer and longer periods of time. Now, I also want to address the root cause of some of these things. Now, like I said, I think this is a result of an injury and a perceived authority. But I think that also, or excuse me, an injury and a coping mechanism, but I think the perceived authority is also a contributing factor. So I went over a number of rules. He has some terrier in him, and he is very determined. And so there are a lot of little things that we did where he was like, no, I'm doing it my way. So I want the Guardian to start playing a little hard to get. If Mojo wants to be petted, he has to sit and earn it. Or if he's not going to sit, then the Guardian's just going to lean back. If he jumps up, she's going to turn her head and just look to the side and just remain uninterested. Now, we talked about some rules. I'd like to make sure that we're not allowing on the furniture at all for 30 days, except for sleeping up here at night. Now, if he tries to get up, what I usually do is I touch their nose with a treat, and I toss it on the ground when the dog jumps down to get it. He licks it up, and we say the word off. And so that way we create a positive association. Now, once I've done that once, if I let him come back and do it again, then he's going to keep on jumping back and forth. So after I do it once, then I might kind of sit here and act like I'm reading, but be ready to flash my hand and block him if he does try to go up. Now, if he does and he doesn't want to get down, you can throw the treat down. If he doesn't do that, you can use a little skinner. The fourth quadrant of operant conditioning is considered a negative punishment, which means to remove something from the equation. So he follows the Guardian everywhere she goes. He really is enamored with her. And so if she doesn't get down and he doesn't, and he blusters at all, get up and leave. Just grab your keys and walk out the door. Grab a book or something so you can have something by your door so you can grab it and sit outside and wait. And wait a minute or two and then come back in. And when you come back in, relax, just don't interact with him. Be just relaxed. This way, I want him to associate. So if I get on the couch, it causes her to leave. If I protest against her, it causes her to leave. Well, the whole thing is I want her to be around. So that's the opposite of what my goal is. So that will help him modify his behavior. But remember, you have to be precise. You have 3 seconds to correct or reward the dog for them to have the ability to make the connection. So, boom. If you go out there, make sure you have your nice slippers on or whatever, and so you're wearing something so you're presentable so you can go out there. Or maybe leave something on your bike so you can read a book or whatever. And you're not going to spend a lot of time out there. Now, before we get into the rules, I think it's important to talk about unbalanced states of mind. Fear, stress, anxiety, excitement are all unbalanced states of mind. We're not going to think as clearly when we're in those states of mind. Well, for him, when he comes home, when his guardian comes home, he is all kinds of excited. He's also all kinds of excited when he pulled out the leash. So I showed her basically a leash technique that's really encapsulation of what I'm going to talk about here. So basically, when she comes in the door, if he's excited, she's going to ignore him. Now, we don't want to let him jump up on her, so she might take a step back or step to the side to prevent him from, he's going to jump up and kind of do that quasi-dance. Take a step back so he can't touch you. But when a dog jumps up on someone, that's a way of claiming them as property. Now, if he's all excited when we reach down and pet him, we're going to make him a little bit more excited every time we do that. And over a course of time, that's going to make him more and more unbalanced. And also, the jumping up with someone confuses him into thinking that he's in charge of the person. So there's kind of 2 things that are going on. So you come in, just ignore him, pretend like he's not even there. And as soon as he settles down, reach for him. As soon as you reach for him, he starts getting wiggles, pull your arm back, and just continue going about your thing. We basically did this several iterations. We did it for the leash, we did it for the door, we did it for the door out there, we did it for the elevator, the door at the lobby. So basically what we do is, I call this light switch on, light switch off. Light switch on is engaging, light switch off is disengaging. I guess this is a little bit of that, but also what I try to do is break things into individual steps. So when we were for the leash, we walked over there and she started reaching for the leash. She got all excited, she walked away and came and sat back over here. Well, the first step is actually walking to where the leash was. And as soon as he walked in front of her, which is the leadership position, Turner walked around and come back down. And then eventually, after about 3 or 4 times, he walked behind her all the way there. And then she had to reach for the leash probably about 15 different times. First time it was this far, next time it was that far, and then this far, then picking it up and clicking it, putting it back. Anytime he got up or got excited, we stopped. So the same sort of principle applies when we come home. If he's excited when we pet him, we're rewarding that. So as soon as he calms down, we're going to reach for him. As soon as he starts wiggling, we turn back and just continue doing our thing. It'll probably be several times going back and forth, but eventually he's going to realize the only way that she's going to pet me is if I'm calm and balanced. And as soon as he's calm, then you want to pet him and engage with him within that 3-second window again. Light switch on when he's doing the things that we want. And being a terrier or a terrier mix, he's very determined. So he's going to try to outlast you. So, if he's all boisterous, bide your time. Eventually, he'll start settling down, like I said, faster and faster. Now, some of the rules we went over, not being allowed in the furniture because the higher a dog sits, the more rank or social status it has, but he also likes to climb on top of his guardian when he wants to communicate, he wants attention. That's not it's not the worst thing in the world, but in his case, I think it's correlated to him thinking he has more authority than her. So eliminating the furniture will kind of help create a little bit of a buffer. Now, he's not going to like it. For the first couple of days, he's going to really protest. Now, there are things you can do, like getting X mats, which are little mats that have little nubs on them that he won't want to sit on, or you put pieces of tinfoil down. Now, when you leave, he becomes the authority figure, but I prefer that he doesn't practice being up here. So if you could get some X mats, you can get them on Amazon. They're, I think, about $11 a piece. You probably need about 4 of them here, but that will help him stay off it. And at the same time, get another dog bed and put it right here. And again, name each dog bed the way I went over. And then after that period of time, then we're going to allow him on the furniture with an invitation, and that's a per iteration, and then only for good behavior. So if he's up here and he starts barking, he has to get down, or he gets down to get a drink of water and comes back, he needs another invitation to get back up. The guardian, I would like to see her creating a boundary when she's eating, so not under the table or in the box in front of the table when she's eating there, not being allowed in the box around the kitchen when she's preparing food. Have to sit before I let her enter out the door. So go to the door and say sit. If he doesn't sit within 3 seconds, walk away and come and sit over here and just read something or turn the TV on, do something else, wait 1 minute, then go back to the door and command him to sit again. If he doesn't, then we walk away for 2 minutes, then 4 minutes, then 8 minutes. And as soon as I go over there and sit and he sits, we open the door and we go out. So have the leash nearby. Also, I'd like the guardian to make him sit before, eventually, we want to practice here and really establish it, but eventually we want to do it where he sits before we open the door to the elevator, or get on the elevator, open the door to the stairs, open the door to the building, every time we cross the street. When you get outside, have a bunch of treats and take no more than 5 steps for your first block. Take 1 step, stop, tell him to sit, give him a treat, and say sit. And take 5 steps, stop, sit, treat. And make sure you say the command word sit and just sit each time after the treat goes into his mouth. And so he never knows where, but before you get to the end of the block, you're going to practice sitting 5, 10, 15 times. After a while, you're going to stop, he's going to give you an auto sit. Now he's paying attention to you and he's following your lead, which is going to be an important part of his transformation. Because I think he thinks he's either responsible for the guardian or that he's her protector. And it's also correlated to him protecting his own body. Let me see, what else? I went over petting with other rules. Look for ways to delay gratification. Make sure that you're eating something before you actually feed him. And then, delay gratification. Make him sit before you throw the ball, or wait before you open the door, and all the other things we went over. Now, petting, I want to make sure you're petting with a purpose, which means if he demands attention, we're going to give him a counter order, tell him to sit. When he sits, pet him under his chin, say the word sit, and then you can pet him as long as you want after that. If you want to pet him, still make him do something. If he's already sitting, ask him to lay down. And if he doesn't sit, then just lean back and disengage, and then read about whatever it is that you're reading about. Wait, at least a minute period of time, and then give him another opportunity if you feel like it. But the more that you play hard to get, I think the more that he's going to start feeling like I have a longing to want to be with you, as opposed to you're kind of longing to be with him. So we need to flip that leader-follower dynamic. I'd like the guardian to also reward desired behaviors. I call this passive training. So every time he comes to you, pet him and say come. Every time he lays down, pet him and say crash or chill, whatever the word is. And every time he brings you a toy, name each toy. Every time, anytime he does any action that you like, make sure you say just the command word within 3 seconds of him finishing it. It's a slower way of training him, but eventually after about 2 months of saying feast when he takes his first bite of food, you'll be able to say feast, and then he goes and eats it. So then eventually you put him the food in his bowl, and then you can sit here and do a little lesson plan or whatever it is, and then feast. And he's waiting, there's nothing but air between him and the bowl, and then he gets the command word and then he gets to eat. So that helps him reinforce the leadership that you have, your authority position, that he has to wait for permission to eat. Eating is a very important activity. And so all things combined, I think, are going to be really beneficial. Now, when the guardian sometimes travels and he stays at a relative's house, it's going to be really important that he has the same rules there. If he doesn't, then it's going to basically feel like, it's going to kind of regress a lot of the work the guardian's going to be putting on here. And we look at, and I talked to the off camera about this, but we look at as breaking rules or allowing the dog not to follow rules as a niceness. It is actually confusing. Because for dogs, he's trying to learn how far or what is allowed or what's not allowed. If I keep him going and 50 times, maybe his number is 50. So he has to try something 50 times where he's like, well, I guess I'm not allowed to do that. But if we do it 48 times, we say no, and the 49th time we let him do it, he's like, so I asked 48 times and I get my way. We train the dog to be defiant. So for him, until he stops this nipping deal, we want to make sure that he does not see himself as have the same authority as the humans, which is allowing them to sit at the same height. But if he's climbing on top of people, that's indicative of him thinking he has more authority than them. And from what I understand, he's nipped at some of these people when he's on their lap and they try to pet him. So again, I think part of this is just a reaction. I don't think he even thinks about it. And that's why the muzzle and things that we talked about off camera are going to really help him get over this hurdle. That's why we're going to come by and spend some extra time with him. But we want to make sure that we help him get through this, because if he bites the wrong person, that's going to be a bad situation. It's stressful for the guardian and the people that watches him for her, because you never know when he's going to do it. Like I said, the good news is the fact he's not drawing blood or really actually biting tells me that he doesn't want, this isn't aggressive behavior, this is a coping mechanism or a defense mechanism. We're going to help him through it with the practice of the muzzle. But don't discount practicing having this thing on for progressively longer and longer periods of time. We'd like to get to the point where, because he gets so many treats associated with this, he likes having this thing on. And then we want him to practice being calm with it on for longer and longer periods of time. So that way, when I'm wearing the muzzle and people are touching my side, that's maybe 5% of the time that I have the muzzle on. The other 95%, I'm getting treats, I'm getting meat sticks, I'm getting all this fun stuff, or I'm getting whatever it is. And so that's going to help him shift the leader-follower dynamic. Let me see. For the leash, practice leashing him up 3 times for every 1 time you actually take him outside. And remember, stop any point he moves in front of you or starts getting excited, and just sit back down. And when he jumps up on you and wants attention, just lean back, look at your notes over here on TSC or whatever it is, and refresh your memory a little bit or have something to look at. And as soon as he sits down, reach down and pet him. Remember, it's almost as a... disengaging is really important, but re-engaging when he does the right thing with good timing is another way of teaching him. When you sit down, I'm all over you. You jump up, I have nothing to do with you. I'm not interested. And don't look, no dirty looks or no eye contact, no chastising. I cross my arms to keep my other dogs, and I look up and I look to the side and I just freeze like a statue because you want to become boring to him. And once he jumps down, pet him. If he doesn't sit, you pet him and jump down and say off. Or if he sits, pet him and say sit. He is now sleeping at his guardian's feet, which is a sign of a successful session. Now, I was really happy with the session, except for the part about the reactivity. I just think it's one of those things where, it would look great if it was able to be done right away, but it's going to take a little bit of practice. But I think by stopping by twice a week for a couple weeks, we're going to be able to help him get through this. Now, once we get him better at this, we'd like the guardian to find other people, if she can, to try to do this as well. But she has to pick and choose her battles, because he nips once or, faintly nips. That might set people, I'm good, I don't want to help anymore. But that's why we use the muzzle. All right, well, this is Mojo's Roadmap to Success. Remember, everything you do trains your dog, only sometimes you mean it.